Hey Pilgrims, Pastor Craig, Horton Congregational Church. Well, here we are out in the garden. Can you believe it? It's only been, it seems like a few short weeks. We had a pretty mild winter. So here we are hooking onto the disc with my dad's #1 tractor from the days when he was farming. A 1956 Minneapolis Moline 445. For its time, a phenomenally advanced tractor. Had a 3-point hitch with draft control on it, so depending on how much load a plow was putting on it, it would change the 3-point hitch depth. Has live hydraulics on it, a high-low torque converter, and power steering. And that was all pretty advanced for the time. You know, it's easy to think about that compared to today's tractor. You know, this probably puts out about 46 horsepower or so. Tractors they pull across the field just north of my place here, probably 450 horsepower or more, and got big dualies on them, got cabs on them, got GPS and tracking on a computer for making sure they're putting on the right amount of fertilizer and seed and that kind of thing. And this poor old tractor didn't have any of that kind of stuff at all. Live PTO though, that was a big time feature for back when it was first introduced. But you know, that got me to thinking a little bit about our faith and about our religion. You know, there was an advertisement. What was that for? Oldsmobile? I think this is not your father's Oldsmobile, something like that. And we get thinking about our religion, and we think about the difference between this tractor and those great big ones that they farm with just north of my place. And yet, the purpose of those tractors, no matter whether they're big and fancy with a cab and a computer in them and 450 horse, or whether they're really simple like this one at 46 horse, they were really meant for just one thing, and that is dragging something across the field. In this case, I'm going to hook onto my old disc, and I thought maybe I'd try and disc up the garden a little bit. It's awful dry here this spring, just for the heck of it. I think this is the earliest I ever would have had to disc if we get this hooked up and do a little bit of it. But anyway, the tractors, whether the modern ones today or this one from the mid-50s, just for yanking something across the field, a piece of tillage or a wagon, something like that. Before that was horses, and just for pulling. Traction is the thing. Yeah, we put other features on them to make that, to enhance that traction and that kind of thing, but it's all for the same. And you know, I guess we thinking about our faith, like I said, because we look back at the Ancient of Days as God is known. And we look at what we do with that faith today, how they worshiped at the time of Moses, how they worshiped at the time of Christ, or throughout the prophets and throughout the kings of Israel, and then at the time of Christ and the new church as it grew and expanded, and how they worshiped then and how we worship today. Even just in my lifetime, in 60-some years, from a pipe organ or a piano and old-time hymns, most of them written during the Civil War era, or whether we've got a worship leader and a worship band with guitars and tambourines and drums inside their little enclosure so they don't bang our ears out, and some of those kinds of things, that you see it all boils down to the same thing, like the tractor just made to yank something across the field. Our faith, our religion really is very simple, has the same kind of basis. If we take a look at Luke 10, the start of the parable of the Good Samaritan. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. And how can we do that? Well, John 3:16 tells us that God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that the world may not perish, but that it might be saved through him. For God sent his Son into the world not to condemn the world, but to save the world, you see. Paul talks about it in Romans 5, and he says, God demonstrates his love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us, you see. And then we have that promise as we go forward. We have the salvation from sin. We have that reconciliation to God through the death of Christ, sacrifice on the cross. And John told his disciples in John 14, he said, go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you so that where I am, you may be also. You see, and those are the very basic promises. None of that changes. None of that changes from the time of Adam to the time of us and for those generations that will come after us. And then we look forward to Revelation 21, where it explains how Christ comes again and describes how the New Jerusalem coming down as a bride adorned for her husband. And Jesus said, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. All things will be made new, you see. So it doesn't matter what our trappings are. It doesn't matter if we dress up this tractor with dualies and a cab and a computer and a whole lot more horsepower. We still back up to a piece of equipment. We use a draw pin, we drop it in, and we yank that baby across the ground in order to make the soil fit for planting. And those scriptures that we covered, and I'll list here with this video so you can go look those up, describe that very basic tenet of our faith, to love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, our neighbor as ourselves, rely upon Jesus Christ for our salvation, and trust in the promise that we'll spend eternity with Him. No matter how we dress it up, whether worshiping in a big fancy church with all kinds of trappings, whether worshiping in a plain clapboard church with nothing but hard wood pews, whether we're worshiping at home with a group of people around the table sharing a meal and praising God for the fact that He loves us and He loved us first so that we could love Him. And those basic tenets, no matter how we dress them up, are all the same. Praise God for His consistency, for His faith, for His promise, for His salvation. Have a great day. Go enjoy some sunshine. Praise God.